Hi everyone, it's Shirley Farrar and this is Encouragement on Fire. Today is podcast number, I believe 34, number 34. We're getting right along. I have Elder Cynthia in the room with me and it's just a regular day. Outside it's raining a little bit, but it's really a good day. So we're going to talk today about heart disease. Now, this podcast is about defeating cancer, sickness, and disease. And my husband, Pastor Darrell, had brought something to my attention. And he had said that, a lot of times, because cancer is really something that has really devastated our communities. However, heart disease is another one of those diseases that has truly affected our communities. Particularly, we always know that in the African American community, heart disease is a big deal. And so we're trying to overcome it in many different ways. But I want to give you some statistics today about heart disease, and we want to have a little conversation. So the information that I'm giving you today comes from the cdc.gov. So you can always go on there and get any of the information that we're talking about. But one of the statistics, it says heart disease is the leading cause of death for men, women, and people of most racial and ethnic groups in the United States. And so what does that mean when we say, racial and ethnic groups in the United States? So I'm going to give you some statistics. And it says here, particularly for Asian Americans is 18.9. For Black non-Hispanic is 20.7%. This one threw me for a loop. White non-Hispanic is 21.3%. And then Hispanic is 15.8%. Now, that's really interesting because whenever I would go to the doctor or I see advertisements on television, I would always see, African Americans in the heart disease. This is a problem. This is an issue. But clearly, if you look at this, Blacks is 20.7 and white non-Hispanic is 21.3. So white Americans also have this same issue, even if it's not being portrayed in some of the literature that I'm seeing in my community. This is a universal thing. This is something that all of us are fighting against in our families, in our communities. And then it goes on and says one person dies every 34 seconds in the United States from cardiovascular disease. So if we just look at our clocks, okay, we start. Someone just died. Think about it just like that. Every 34 seconds. So this is a big deal. And then it says about 697,000 people in the United States died from heart disease in 2020. That's 1 in every 5 deaths. So we already know the statistics of cancer. There are so many there's over 100 different cancers. And so when you're looking at, wow, people are dying from cancer, there are other diseases that people are also dying from. And we need to address it. Remember in our last podcast, we talked about different COPD. We talked about so many different things. All of these diseases are connected because when we go before our specialists, our doctors, they're telling us the same thing. Eat right. Exercise. They're telling us all the same thing. And guess what? If we are doing those things, then all of the diseases that we are seeing will minimalize, right? Or go away in our own lives or our families' lives. So I'm sitting here with Elder Cynthia today, and I want to get a little feedback from her so she can tell me maybe some things that she may have read herself. So do you have anything that you'd like to contribute?
I do have something from the American Heart Association.
Okay.
Healthy for Good and How to Eat Better. they tell you to, make smart choices.
Okay.
Try to make smart choices. Sometimes it's hard when you don't have a lot of money or things are a little higher in price. But try to do the best you can.
Right.
And eat vegetables. That's really important. Fruits.
That is so true.
Whole grain.
Yeah.
Breads.
Well, let's talk about that before you move on. The American Heart Association is telling us to make sure that we are eating properly. We're supposed to eat the right fruits,
yes,
the right vegetables. Remember last week we talked about that. If you're a person with COPD, you can't eat the same fruit as somebody who maybe is diagnosed with diabetes. You can't eat the same fruit as somebody who is diagnosed with cancer. Let's be honest about that. So when they say fruits and vegetables, what a doctor is trying to tell you is the right fruits and vegetables for you.
Yes.
Not for everyone, because there's a lot of fruits. There's a lot of vegetables. And guess what? All the fruits out there, if a diabetic eats the same fruits, they could have too much sugar. And then they can't eat them certain times of the day. Right. So when they're talking about fruits and vegetables, is there some specific fruits and vegetables that they're saying someone who's been diagnosed with heart disease, is there something specific they're saying that there's maybe 2 or 3? If there isn't, then that's something that my listeners or my viewers, you need to do your research.
Yes.
If it's generalized, then so be it. You can have anything unless you have some other underlining circumstances. So if you have diabetes along with the heart disease, you can't do that. So you really have to think about it. If you don't have any of it, but in your family, you have a history of heart disease, not you, but a history. You should be mindful to say, okay, there's a history in my family. So what do I need to do to make sure that doesn't happen to me? So do you
check with your doctor? Because the doctor will, most of the time, they have a list of what you can eat. Absolutely. Or what you shouldn't be eating.
Absolutely.
In their office if you're a diabetic.
That's so true, Mom, because there's a nutritionist. Every time you go to a doctor, they actually have an assigned nutritionist that they use for their doctor's office, or they can assign you one like through your insurance or other things. And they always have these wonderful charts. I remember when I was going through, the cancer, they would give me like charts. They would give me websites that had the right foods for me to eat.
Right.
And so we need to be mindful. If you know you have history of heart disease in your family, what are you eating? Does it align with the history of your family? Now, it doesn't mean that we receive sickness and disease, because if you're a faith-based listener and you are saying, well, I don't believe in that, we're not saying that you should. As you're praying, remember, faith without works is dead. Yes. So as we're praying for our healing, as we're praying for the things that God would have for us, we still need to be smart and mindful, because if the genetics in your body, while you're praying, okay, God, save me from this, right? It's the same thing. I believe if I had to go through, and I don't even know why I'm thinking about this, but if I had to go through a forest, and I know that there are all these bad animals and there's snakes, and I still need to get to the other side, I'm going to pray. My mom said she ain't going. I'm going to pray while I'm running through. I'm just being honest with you. I'm praying and I'm running through, right? And guess what? If I got to fight a couple snakes on the way, I'm going to do what I have to do. However, I am not going to tempt fate if I don't need to go through that. If I don't need to go, why am I going to put myself at risk? Think about it that way. I'm not going to put myself at risk. So therefore, I'm going to avoid that forest if I don't need to go to the other side. Same thing. So I'm just saying. No, my mom said, I got something to say. Go ahead.
I was going to say, even though the doctors may give you a list of things that you should be eating, you might be one of those people that don't like the smell of broccoli.
Well,
and can't eat it, or you don't like salmon.
Right. I love all of those things. So that's not me.
But there are people that don't like those things.
So you choose something else. Absolutely.
Maybe asparagus.
I love them.
Or greens.
I love greens too. See, when I grew up, let me give y'all a little insight. When I grew up, my parents, wasn't considered rich. But we were rich because I thought we were rich. We had so much. We had love. We had so much. And so when I grew up, my parents always put food in front of me and said, there's some people out there that are not able to eat. And I took that to heart. And I was like, well, I need to eat my food, right? So I'm pretty sure some of y'all old school people out there, you're thinking the same thing. If your parents put it in front of you, I'm going to eat that food. Now, are there some things I just don't care for? Absolutely. Yeah. But if that's what's put in front of me, I'm going to eat that food. Or I'm just being honest with you, because there's probably nothing you can, is there anything, Mom? There's nothing that I wouldn't eat. If somebody gave me a plate of food, I'm going to eat my food, because that's the way I grew up. Okay. Now everybody's not like me, and you don't have to be, but me, myself, my siblings, that's just the way that we grew up. But is there something that I don't like?
There was something Lisa didn't like.
Oh, cabbage. I think it was cabbage too, right? No, it was asparagus. Lisa was asparagus.
She would say, give it to the one who needs it.
Yeah. And I think growing up, I didn't like cabbage at first. I think because I remember sitting at the dining room table, and I remember like being there for like 4 hours and so 3 hours. And, as a child, you think it's longer than it is. I remember being there for 4 hours, almost bedtime, and the plate in front of me. And I was like, I'm not eating it. I'm not eating it. And I was like trying to throw it on the floor. The little kids like, I'm just going to throw it on the floor. Oh my mom sitting there shaking her head because, I was that kid, right? But I remember that. But now, love cabbage. Mm-hmm. So you could say my parents conditioned me. They, whatever it was, they taught me, and I love the food. Oh, man, my sister's coming up here. My sister's coming up here to give her feedback about what I just now said.
I have one thing to say.
What you got to say?
I can remember asparagus being on my plate for dinner.
Oh, Lord.
My mother said, okay, you don't have to eat it.
Uh-huh.
She got up the next morning. She made eggs, pancakes, and all this. And I sat down for breakfast, and she pulled the asparagus out the refrigerator.
Lord.
And sat it down in front of me and said, now you better eat it if you want some of this.
Y'all heard that, right?
Mom Scott did it.
See, Elder Cynthia, what she did with us, my sister said that she brought that same asparagus from the night before and put it in front of her for breakfast. That is so wonderful. Oh my goodness, I love it. I love it. And we weren't in the doctor's office. That is the truth. That's why when that happened to me as an adult, and getting the cancer, I was sitting there saying to myself, oh my goodness, how did this happen to me? Because at some point I started to change how I was eating, and the lack of exercise and doing those things. See, when we're children, our parents raise us up to do what we need to do. And somehow I got off the journey. I'm back on the journey. I'm working on getting back on the journey and doing what I need to do. And it's a process, but I'm encouraging all of you out there. Sometimes you have to go back to what you learned. The good stuff, not all the bad, not the bad stuff. I'm talking about the good stuff. And so we train our children, and it wasn't about spanking my sister like you eat that food, but it was about training her. Baby, you're not going to get anything else until you eat what you had from the night before. And see that? Now we're all those people that, you know what? I'm not going to waste things that have been given to me. I'm not going to be that person. And if I don't want to eat something as an adult, then I just won't buy it. I won't eat that. But I know that if I'm not getting my vitamins from asparagus, or I'm not getting my vitamins from cabbage or broccoli, I still need to get my vitamins in another a form. And that was the lesson that our parents was teaching us. But hopefully through what you eat is the best way to get your vitamins. Yes. So let's move on, Mom. Let's keep going. All right. So heart.org, they have a actual, I won't say an online article. And this online article says, help stop the silent killer. And remember, we're talking about heart disease. The silent killer, however, and many of you know, is high blood pressure. Yes. And we don't regulate high blood pressure. Most of us go about our day. We feel a little queasy. We take a pop a pill, right? We feel a little, let me stop the salt, or we lay down, or we do whatever. But guess what? If you have heart disease in your family, you should be regulating that blood pressure. You should be making sure that your blood pressure is staying stable. Because at any time, remember, silent killer, you don't even know it's high, and it could maintain high for a period of time. So you're always supposed to write down, I always say prevention is the best. Make sure you're eating right, doing what you're supposed to. But it's almost like cholesterol. What do you think about that, Mom? It's almost like cholesterol. It's not considered the silent killer, but cholesterol could be high. And you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize my cholesterol, because there's good and bad cholesterol. But sometimes you don't even realize my cholesterol is up, and the doctor does the test. Like I said, you got to be going for your blood work, everybody, doing your cholesterol test. But imagine that, your cholesterol. I remember my cholesterol was up before all of this was happening to me. It was up for a long period of time. And the doctor kept saying, Cheryl, if I see you the next time and your cholesterol is up, I'm going to put you on some pills. And I was like, oh, you're not going to put me on no pills. I'm going to get our cholesterol down. So I started changing my cereal. I went to, I think, Cheerios. I was eating, what was some of the other things that I was doing? There was a couple of different things that I was doing to lessen, what'd you say, babe? Oatmeal. I was doing oatmeal. Like there was different things I was doing. Kashi. And also getting on the treadmill, trying to make sure that I'm exercising, because I wasn't at the time. And so doing some of those things to kind of help. Now, guess what? Sometimes those things aren't enough. Once you let your cholesterol get out of hand, it's not enough. And then the doctor does have to put you on medicine. However, remember, medicine is only temporary. We should not say, oh, I'm on medicine, I'm good.
Eat
No.
what I want now.
No, eat what I want. No, we need to then work even harder so we can get off the medicine.
10 donuts.
No, get off the medicine. But let's get back to the silent killer. So, high blood pressure. I know that's something that has been in our family. We have to always be mindful. I believe Grandma, she had that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, Mom.
Well, one thing, the eating a lot of, what do you call it, trans fat? Because back in the day, they would eat margarine. You always saw margarine on tables. They thought that was better than butter. But I began to eat butter, and not a whole lot. I just would not eat the margarine, because I saw where they said margarine contributes to heart disease.
How many of y'all out there, your parents or your grandparents, because my grandma used to buy that big old tub.
Big tubs.
And that big old tub of margarine, it sit on the table, and you be thinking, wait a minute, it's not going bad. You know what I mean? Where butter, you can't leave butter out too long, because it's going to start, because anything that is in its original state goes bad faster. But things that are not, they have the preservatives, all these different things. And it's like, that's been sitting out on the table a little long there, and I don't see it changing. That's not a good thing.
But the American Heart Association said avoid trans fat and partially hydrogenated oils.
Yes.
And that's also found in some commercial baked goods and fried foods. So they didn't say you couldn't eat it.
Right.
They just said
lessen it.
And do all things in moderation.
I'm so glad you said that, Mom, because you go to some of these donut places or you go to some of the fast food places, you have a lot of those trans fat. And you have to be careful.
Hydrogenated oils.
Come on, y'all know they're using hydrogenated
you can't
oils.
Eat there every day.
Yes.
Or every other day.
You really need to, if you're a person that every day you're doing this.
Yes.
If you can't quit doing that, I would say limit it to twice a week. Then go down to once a week. Sometimes it's a process. Just as long as it took you to get to that place, it's almost like you're going backwards. Okay, I got to stop doing this. I got to stop. Do you guys think that I'm perfect in all this, even after going through what I just did? No. So what I've done is I make a standard for myself. Okay. So if I love my coffee. I'm not giving up my coffee. I'm just being honest with y'all. But I also drink tea. But there's a lot of other things that I know I can't have. And so I don't do that. Like I love chocolate. So what I do is I have the 95% chocolate. Do I have it every day? No. What I do is I put it in my healthy shake, the 95% chocolate. I add the vegetables and other things. but I keep it in my refrigerator because there's going to be those times you're like, I gotta have my chocolate, but you hear my voice change. I gotta have my chocolate.
It's good for you too.
It is good for you,
Yeah.
but go with
Moderation.
some moderation. So you can't have it every day. So you do what you have to do. You know, you do what you have to do. Then go ahead, Mom. You had something to say?
Oh, I was going to say, just make sure you have those vegetables. Like broccoli is good for you, asparagus, and there's good things like grapefruit, apples, different kinds of fish. And if you have meat, just have lean meat.
Lean meat.
Try to have lean meat.
Yeah.
Because I know with the African American race, we love fried foods. So if you're going to have fried food, just have it every once
I
in
know
a
some
while.
of y'all thinking that's
'Cause
a
I'm not gonna tell
stereotype.
you-
I know
Hey.
y'all like, that's a stereotype. Now, y'all know
But
it ain't no
it's true.
stereotype.
Hey,
We love
it's
some
true.
fried foods.
It's true. And if you're going to have it, just have it every once in
Every
a while.
once in a
Because I
while.
get a taste for that.
Because I love fried chicken. I'm not even going to lie.
You know?
But you know what? If I have fried chicken maybe 4 times a year.
Well, I'm going to have it a little more
I'm
than
just,
4
but
times
see,
a year.
but remember, she wasn't
Yeah.
diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not your, or the sarcoidosis or any of
Right.
those things. Those are things that now, though I am the healed, I still need to be concerned
Yeah,
about
right.
my history. And so, not that I'm not going to have it. I'm
Right.
just going to say, I'm going to have it on special occasions. So
Yeah.
I'll have it
Or-
4 times a year, 5 times a year.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be
or I
having,
would say-
this week, I'm having it now.
Or even
Next week, I
once
think
a
I'm having
month,
it again.
or once every 2 months, I may
I
want to
think
go
that's
out.
good too. I think
You know?
that's
Yeah.
great,
It's
you know?
according to the person's body, because some
Right.
people could take a little more.
Right.
But you know your body.
Well, until I lose all of the weight that I
Yes.
said that I was going to, that's my commitment.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be doing that all
Right.
the time.
Right.
And until I get to my cholesterol where it needs to be, where all these different things, you know how you have the standard. I need to
Yeah.
get my body at this point. Once it all gets there, then that's it. You can
Right.
then be a little bit more flexible instead of 5 times a year. Yeah, maybe I can have it 6 times a year, maybe
Yeah,
every other
2
month.
Every other month.
You know, something like that.
And enjoy
You know,
it. Don't
and
feel
enjoy
guilty.
it.
Don't
Exactly.
feel guilty.
Exactly. Now, from the high blood pressure or the silent killer, remember we're still talking about heart disease. Sometimes people have heart attack symptoms. So some of the heart attack symptoms that you should be aware of is chest discomfort, shortness of breath, nausea, lightheadedness. Now, a lot of times people say, well, they having those symptoms anyway, but it could be many
it could be
things.
something else.
I would say mostly that those heart pains,
Yeah.
the chest
Yes. Or
pains.
talk with your doctor.
Talk with your doctor. You should be,
Yes.
every year you should be getting an annual physical. And if you feel pains in your body, now at least every 3 months, you should be getting maybe blood work or something like that, especially if you've had a prior situation. Now, should you be in the doctor's office every month? No, because it takes work. It takes you to actually be exercising for a period of time. Because remember,
Yes.
as long as it took you to get there, sometimes it
Yes.
takes that to get out of it.
Yes.
But if you're working with your doctor, you can then tell them for the past 2 months, this is what's been going on with me. On Monday, this was happening. Tuesday, this is happening. And usually they can show you that. Most of the time, we don't write that stuff down. And then we get into in front of the doctor and we're like, oh, I'm good.
Because you feel good.
You felt good that day. But what about the past 2 months? Well, doctor, I feel good right now. But however, let me take out this list because a month ago, and the doctor said, let me give you some tests. And now they can show you what that was, even though the day you walked into the doctor's office, that day you were feeling good. But then also, if, heart disease, all these things lead to different things. Sometimes people may have signs of stroke.
Yeah.
And that could be their face drooping. I had a friend of mine, their face started to droop. And we noticed it. We were like, you may want to go see the doctor because something's going on with you. And that person had a slight stroke. And they didn't even realize it. Also, the arm weakening. You know, you ever had that feeling like, oh, what's going on? It's an extreme feeling, but if it's happening to you, you need to have someone look at that, talk to your doctor. And also speech difficulty. Now, we're not talking about that you have a speech problem. We're talking about you other than your normalcy. So a change in your speech. And you're like, what is going on? That could be a sign of stroke. So just being mindful. You know, I think that, you know, let's focus on how to fix some of these things. Now, I think what is it? The heart?
American Heart Association said limit the amount of sweetened drinks that you have. Some people could stop at the store and get a sweetened drink every day. Limit that.
Let's stop right there before you go on.
Yes.
Let me tell you guys, I used to go to a couple of your coffee shops. I'm not going to name who they are. But every day I was getting that kind of coffee. See, now I get either a Wawa where I can kind of determine what's going to go in the coffee.
And I used to say something.
And
about
Mom
that.
used to tell me that all the time. I was doing this for years. She said, Shirley, that's too much sweetener in that coffee.
Yes.
But it was helping me. Remember, we talked about, because we have 40-hour jobs. We have our community service. We have our families, all these different things. We're going one to the next, to the next. Talk about sleep, this and that. My sleep was lessening. All these things is happening. And need coffee. Now, you can have coffee, but it's what you're putting in the coffee. And you have to be careful with that. And I was doing that. So, and it's not just coffee, sweeteners. If you're having that iced tea with all that sweetener in it, it's okay occasionally, but not all the time. You are going to have to be responsible in that and say, you know what, this is too much. Or brew your own. That's another healthy way. Brew your own from really good, you know, tea bag. You know, sometimes you can make your own blends. Do that. And then you can monitor how much sugar or not sugar is going into your tea. So just being, you know, careful with that. And go ahead, go to the next one.
Also, alcohol. And everybody doesn't, you know, drink. Or if you have alcohol, just don't overdo it. Limit it. It says limit it.
Exactly. And hydrate. If you're drinking alcohol, you know you're supposed to then hydrate. Drink water. Get enough of it in you. Because if you're just, that's all you're drinking and then you barely drink water, well, that's not good.
Same with coffee.
Same with coffee. Oh, I'm drinking so much water on top of it. You know,
sodium, don't overdo it with that. And what I do is I take sea salt. I'm telling everybody what to take, but sea salt is better than that regular salt. And the other one, Himalayan salt is good.
That's an excellent one. Yes,
that's that pink salt.
Pink salt.
They said also limit the amount of red and processed meats. And
absolutely.
that's like
doesn't mean you can't have it, just need to limit it.
That's like your pot pies. I love the pot pies in the store.
I started making my own.
So make your own, or if you have this, limit it. How much? Don't have it every day.
If you make your own pot pie, you can have fresh vegetables. You can even make your sauce. Now, I don't make my own sauce. I go get a sauce that is approved, meaning the ingredients are good. And that's another thing the Heart Association says. Look at the ingredients. Sometimes you don't have to do everything from scratch. You may, of a pot pie, if you can find the cream that goes in it, that's a good ingredient. And then you have your fresh vegetables, and then maybe you're making your dough for the actual crust. You know, you're making it out of almond flour. You're making it out of some other flours that are really good for you. The point is that every time you make a decision, I'm going to eat this. Is this good for me? That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to encourage you that every single time you make that decision. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mom.
They also said limit refined carbohydrates like added sugar. Because you'll notice on the ingredients, it will tell you sugar. Then it will tell you how much added sugar.
And carbohydrates turn into sugar. You know, so you got to be careful about this. So you have sugar on the label, and then you have carbohydrates. It's just like saying sugar. So just be mindful.
Sugar. Processed grain foods, full fat dairy products. Limit that. Limit highly processed food. Tropical oils like, now they say coconut and palm.
They say to limit that.
Yeah, they say limit that.
Well, that's for someone who has heart disease.
Yeah.
So now, I don't necessarily use coconut oil, but I like coconut oil.
Yeah.
I stick with the what is
I
it?
put it in my.
The virgin olive oil.
Yes,
I use that one.
I use that.
And I do use butter. I just don't
Yeah.
use it as much.
Right.
I just try to do what I need to do. But I think coconut oil is a good one.
Yeah, it
but
is.
but
Yeah,
remember,
I put in my oatmeal just a little bit.
a little bit.
Yeah.
But remember, it depends on what you've been diagnosed with, on how you need to. Just like some fruits are not good for some
Right.
people. Same thing with some oils; they're not good for some.
Yes.
So you just be mindful of that.
Yeah, grapeseed oil is good.
Right.
Avocado oil is good,
Right.
and olive oil.
Olive oil. Now,
Virgin oil.
some of the things you said: healthy eating, fitness. So there's 8 life essentials that we
Yes.
need to do to fix it. Quit smoking if you are, and that means vaping as well. All right, because I know a lot of times people think, "Oh, nope, vaping as
Yeah.
well."
Yes.
Getting sleep. We talked about this. I wasn't getting enough sleep. I live for 8 hours of sleep at night. That's me. I function well with good sleep. And so I don't know if you're that person. Some people only need 4 hours. That's fine, but that's
Yes.
not me. And then losing weight. That's what I'm in the process of doing right now. Keeping my cholesterol down.
Yes.
Or, the diabetes, making sure not to get that. But if that's what you've been diagnosed with, making sure you're eating right, making sure you're doing what you're doing, because all of these things contribute to heart disease. And then the blood pressure, which is the silent killer. You must be careful. So we're just telling you all these things to help you. If in your family there is heart disease, be mindful of it. If you're a faith-based person, believe that you are the healed, but it doesn't mean you don't have work to do. You must still do the work.
Yeah.
Is there anything last that you want to say?
Yes. If you want to live, check out your health, check out what you're eating, and exercise.
Absolutely.
Exercise, because when you get older, I see a lot of older people who are dragging around. But I see a lot of older people in the gym, 85 years old, 89 years old, and they can move better than me.
All right, Mom. And Mom can move good. Mom is upright and doing what she loves to do. And I think that is wonderful.
Yes.
She's in that gym 2, 3, 4 times a week if she could. And I hope to be just like her. So that's why I'm working on me. But I want to say to you, everyone out there, be encouraged. Do what you need to do. Do the work.
Yes.
I'm telling you something, as I'm encouraging you, I'm encouraging myself. I am going to do the work. And there's some days that I wake up and guess what? I do not want to do the work. But you know what? I must. If I want to live, if I want to live healthy, if I want to be strong, we all have to do the work. So I'm Shirley Farrar, and this has been Encouragement on Fire. Be encouraged today. I'll talk to you soon.